Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday, everybody.
How are you, LB?
Well, I'm well.
Well,
I'm a
you're
little
well.
warm. It's getting a little warm in Los Angeles. It was really cool, actually, for a little while. And now the heat is back on. So if I'm a little sweaty, it's because it's a little warm.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
but don't you have island breezes from the lovely ocean behind you, or no? That's
Not from this ocean behind me, but maybe from the one over there. We'll see. We have to open doors.
Okay.
There's animals. It gets a little tricky.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lots of stuff happened this week, as it does, because
Yes.
we're living in, I don't know, the end times or something. So we've got a lot to talk about.
Don't
We've got
say
our
it, Greg.
topics.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
oh.
it's not the end times. It's a
I feel like it
transition period
is.
from.
I feel like it is.
No. It's a period from one part of history into another part of history that we are living through. That's what it is. It's a transition period, for better or
Oh,
for worse. So it's a
okay.
period that historians years from now will write about, if there are historians years from now, which hopefully there will be.
Oh. Well, okay. All right. We're not going to go there. We'll do that for our climate show, which I hope we put together soon. I think we need to get a panel of really great people to come on and just talk to us about where we're at with climate. I said this last week.
Yeah.
And I still.
You know what we should do? I
very
have an
much
idea.
believe it.
This is just
Okay, what are we going to do? What you have an idea right now?
Every day,
idea.
every Friday,
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, next week let's do the climate show."
This is it.
And then the week after, we won't do it. And then our show can be sort of like a microcosm of how the entire global world views climate change.
Yes, and also
it's proving a point.
And also how my husband does his diet, because every day he goes, I'm starting my diet today. Every day. Every day. Starting my diet.
No time like the present.
No time like the present.
Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow is a good day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is always a good day.
Yeah.
All right, so you're the one that doesn't want to lollygag.
I don't want to lollygag. I want to get right into the show.
You want to get right into the show. Let me look at.
So this is the 5-8, everybody. We do 5 topics, 8 minutes each. We usually have a guest. Sometimes we have an ad. Actually, we've been consistent about having both of those things. We might have something surprises, but this is what we're doing. I don't know. This is our structure, and I keep the clock. And I'm very rigid.
Are you going to change? Are you going to change the ringtone, or no? Is it
no? I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
I used to run a tech company. I founded a tech company, run a tech company. I don't want to bother with these things. It's all beyond me at this point.
But
I like our foghorn, but maybe we'll get a different alarm at some point. Okay, here we go. Ready, go.
At some
point.
First
topic. Greg Oliar, the media is the message.
Okay, well, I that's a fancy title that sometimes these scrolly things are just to get people wondering what we might be talking about. I want to talk about the myth of messaging here, because there's a lot of talk, about how Democrats are bad at messaging. We hear this all the time. Democrats are bad at messaging. It's almost like we're in disarray all the time. And I want to zag where other people are zigging. Okay. We're good at messaging. We're great at messaging. All the fucking smart, creative people are on our side. All the writers are on our side, except for like Tucker Carlson and I don't know. There's like 3 other people.
He's not a writer. He's artless.
Yeah. Okay. So, we're all the brains. It's all us. We have the messages, and people are like, they're bad at messaging. And then you go look at everybody, and Pelosi's saying something, and Swalwell's saying the same thing, and Biden is saying the same thing, and Harris is. We have the message. Everyone is on message all the time. The problem isn't the messaging. The problem is the media doesn't report the messaging, because the media would rather write about some bullshit white privilege GOP grievance than whatever the goddamn message actually is. That's the reality. That's what we're living through. So to rail against the messaging, okay, maybe you have a better analogy, but my analogy is it's like we're in this band, and our band is great, man. We have great music. Our music is awesome. And it's objectively true. Our music really is objectively awesome, but they won't play us on the radio, man. Why? They just want to play Leonard Skinner and like 38 Special, and we can't break through. And maybe if the music was a little better, we would break through to the DJs. The DJs are not ever going to stop playing Eric Clapton and Leonard Skinner. It's never going to happen. The problem isn't the music. The problem is the radio. We don't need to make the music better. We need to regulate the radio station. Okay.
Yes.
What did Morrissey say in the Smiths? Hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ.
Hang the DJ.
Yes.
Right. Well,
okay.
I think you get into something there of that. Leonard Skinner clearly brings in something. The perception is that Leonard Skinner brings in the audience, which then they can turn around and say to the advertisers, this is who the audience is, or the audience that listens to Leonard Skinner, and it's these demographics, it's this these kinds of buyers, and the car companies come swarming in. Oh, Leonard Skinner, let's do our car commercials, or the pharma companies, because they pay the most per ad spot. So it gets into the corporatization of media, is messing with the message, right? Don't let this message get in. I also think there's another element to this which is the always already way of thinking about things. And that's sort of a very cynical, resigned way that people get into their high-end jobs, right? So you have folks in the employment, it's all done through human beings in employment that are controlling the message. We can say the media, but that's just people, right? They rise up the ranks of the executive ranks. And typically it's because, or along with that rise, are stories. So mantras of like, well, Dems in disarray, Republicans all, have ism issues or issues, racist issues. And so they keep that going as they ascend, and as these folks get higher and higher up the executive to be making the decisions and being the oversight lords of what actually gets through, like the New York Times editor, like these people, right? They have a story they bring with them that help them rise up the ladder. In my industry, in entertainment and screenwriting, I saw this. It was so glaringly obvious. So let me just give an example of this. I had a pitch at a big studio with a great producer. We came in, we prepared this whole thing. It was a female lead. It was fantasy, magical, big 4-quadrant movie. And we thought, this was about 6 or 7 years ago, we thought we were hitting a moment where everyone was ready for female leads. They weren't quite ready for it yet because of all the YA stuff. And I was trying to take my work in YA and really branch out over into, and my work, like the Marco Polo stuff, branch out over into, big scopy 4-quadrant stuff. 4-quadrant means you're hitting all the demographics because it's a movie everybody wants to go see. Family, fair, but a little bit more muscle. And so we're pitching this to the number 2 exec at this studio. I won't name the studio because it was awful what was said to us. And I'm with a massive producer. You can't even imagine how big this producer is. Everybody's seen all of his movies. And we're in there. I give the pitch, this big thing. And we get to the end of the pitch. It's like 15, 20 minutes. Perfect pitch. And he's like, that was the best pitch I've ever heard. It's the best pitch I've ever, like literally applauding us. And we're like, great. Yay. Yay. You heard the best pitch of your life. Fantastic. We're so happy. I'm so happy it was me. I'm so happy it was the producer. We're all so feeling it. And then the executive says, but you can't do a movie of that size and that budget with a woman as a lead unless you get Angelina Jolie. And we just went, right? And then proceeds to say a lot of really misogynist things without knowing they were misogynist. It was like, okay, this is the story. This story is meaningless. I could present all kinds of data, tons of evidence to show how wrong this executive was and how female leads can drive the box office and have driven the box office. But it doesn't matter. This is the thing that he has in his head that he said over and over again as he rose up the ranks to second in command at this big studio. So it's the same in all of these industries. I think anybody who's worked in the corporate sector can hear and echo this. They hear it, right? They hear the echo of this in their own experience of, yeah, people get set in this sort of staid way of how things is. And that's what it is with this, how we deal with politics, how we cover politics. We did have a big shift with Trump. And leading up to that, it became sport ball, right? It became Sports Center all of a sudden for politics. And then once they got addicted to that, and this is the way things go, we can't seem to reel the media out of their own participation in ensuring that we never get out of this hole that we're in with our politics and our discourse, right? It's all about the discourse, and they're driving it into the fucking ground or towards off the cliff of fascism, really, truly, by sticking both things in this, talking about Republicans as if they're just traditional conservatives or there's equal stuff. That's wrong too. This is a fascist party now.
Yeah.
These people tried to overthrow an election. They tried to overturn an election. And we're just going on as if it's just normal, politics. Oh my God. So that's my rant.
I like it. And it reminds me of this HR thing that I learned when I used to work in human resources. There was I'm going to
at a media place, by the way.
At a media place. I am going to botch this completely, but there was some sort of thing where I'm going to get buzzed. Can I continue? This is short.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll pause it like 1 second. Oh my God. It's like The Bomb. It's like a Michael Bay movie. I paused it right at 1 second.
Oh my God. Wait. The bomb is about to explode. What should we do? Let's call our agent.
We have to wire.
We have to call our agent and get a book deal and then wait 6 months and then defuse the bomb. Oh, right. I'm sorry. We're not journalists.
We're not.
The New York Times. Right. Anyway, forget the gorilla thing. It's okay. The thing is there were the bunch of gorillas and they had some reason why the bananas had to be in a certain place. Okay. Yeah. And then the reason, whatever the reason was, and I don't remember, went away, and succeeding generations of gorillas would hurt each other if the gorillas tried to move the bananas where they had been always, even though there was no longer any reason for them to be there. And none of the gorillas who were enforcing this were even alive when anyone understood why the bananas were put there. Right.
Well, we are primates.
We are primates, and we're in this, that's where we are. Okay. All right.
Here we go. Next segment. Moving it along
is Musk math, and we have a guest.
We have a guest coming on that's going to handle certain segments. So let's see. The intro says it all. Dana, Lysis, Danalysis. Analysis with Dana.
All right.
Look who it is.
It says Dana.
Hi. I'm still trying to figure out what the horse in the shed is.
Yeah, I just threw that in. I was coming up with all kinds of graphics for when I was making that little intro, and I just threw that in because it was ridiculous. Hi, Dana.
Thanks for having me. Hi,
Thanks for coming on. So this is a possible regular recurring guest. This is says Dana from Twitter. Our friend Dana, who is a former senior marketing executive for Tyco International, and which is a big global conglomerate and many companies thereof. So when we get into discussing, as we sort of were leading up into, things that are on the corporate side of things and doing some analysis of that, there's nobody that does it better than Dana at Says Dana. Really. Well, what I love about you, Dana, is that you started analyzing things, and then it usually ends up like, I don't know, guys, I'm just doing this, and here's all the information. So you don't end up taking false leaps into any kind of conspiracy land. You just stick with what we can know and what makes sense and what the facts are. So we wanted to bring you in to talk about Musk, because this is the big thing, and Twitter, but also, who?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
I've never heard of it either.
The math of Musk, right? Like, so what is this deal, and does it make sense? I'm going to put the clock on, and you're going to take us through it.
Okay. First of all, this is all from my opinion. This whole deal just makes no financial sense.
Okay.
Outside of the fact that we have an ego-driven man who has a lot of money, $300 million, richest man in the world. And when he wants something, he takes it. But what he doesn't, and taking it private makes sense for him because he doesn't want people looking at his money and what he's doing behind the scenes.
Oh.
But the valuation of the company versus what they're paying for it is only good for the shareholders. And unless the shareholders say, hey, I don't want a 38% return on my investment, even Musk is making $1 billion, almost $2 billion, I think $1.5 billion on the shares he owns, if they even count. Today, he sold another, 9.6 billion shares over the last 3 days of Tesla, probably to help fund the equity side that he's involved with. And then Morgan Stanley, who is a shareholder of Twitter, is made money on the shares that they bought, and then they're doing the deal for the debt, and they're using.
Oh my God! Really?
And then they're doing the collateral that's being held. They're using, it's all collateralized. They're taking the assets from Twitter to be used as collateral because you can do that.
Okay.
So,
what are the assets of Twitter?
About $13 billion.
Okay.
And that's like everything that, whatever it is they have. They've got about $6 billion in debt from acquisitions of other companies. But I don't, everyone's talking about how he is probably going to get rid of this. Like maybe he's not going to do this because whatever. I think he wants it as a part of his global communications strategy that he's trying to create. Plus, we can't forget that Twitter did some really good acquisitions, a couple bad ones over the last 5 years, to acquire companies that are involved in AI. And that's something that he's really into. And if it was me, and I'm not as smart as some of these folks, I would think that he's going to spin off some of these entities within his own organization. Maybe he would want to merge SpaceX, which is the military rocket side of things that's still private, into Tesla, make a bigger company, kind of like what Facebook did with Meta, and then start peeling all this stuff off. Because guys, on a deal like that, they're going to saddle Twitter with over $1 billion in debt.
Right.
And they'd have to make $1 billion more than they currently make, which is $2 billion a year of that, to even pay for the debt, the interest rates. So I don't understand where he came out with that. But there was a comment that I remember seeing in a newspaper article about, remember Al-Walid bin Talal?
Yes.
It was a shareholder of Twitter. He still is.
Oh,
he rejected he rejected Musk early on to say, I will never agree to selling my Twitter shares because the intrinsic value of the price you're offering is too low. And the intrinsic value is just some hokey formula they use to determine assets and all these other things. But now that intrinsic value is up 38%. And so will that shareholder say yes or no? Probably says yes, because the only shareholders who made money on this were the top 10. Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, Elon Musk, and a bunch of other equity firms. And so I think he's going to keep it. I think he's going to try to figure out what to do with it. I don't know what the long term is, but this was basically a leveraged buyout. It doesn't sound like a hostile takeover. It doesn't sound like he's trying to get rid of it, but maybe he's going to try to repackage it and figure out how to create another IPO down the road and sell it off when he's done with it. But I think he's going to have to strip things from it, because you cannot increase your gross profit margins, increase revenue without cutting costs. You're going to lay off people. And when you're the company acquired, because I've been there, I don't tell you, a lot of times, you don't want to be the acquiree. You want to be the acquiree. You don't want to be the acquired company, because you're going to get laid off. They have to cut costs. So I don't know what his strategy is. I'm still trying to figure it out. And boy, I've got some notes on this that I just can't understand. But if he can come up with
exactly where I said you would, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But
well, I can't figure, because I don't know him.
There always seems to be some other motivating factor that we can't.
And we haven't figured it out yet. But I think he wants Twitter for a good reason. It's definitely a global communicator. He definitely wants to, he says he wants to do these things, but at some point it's going to be at the cost of layoffs, people, and maybe stripping and merging some of the entities he's acquired, like Magic Pony. What kind of a name is that? Magic Pony. But Magic Pony was one of the technologies that is a way to improve machine learning. And that's been pretty good for Twitter to own. Some of them haven't been that great, and Periscope, he likes video. He likes to see himself. I mean, so I think
is Neuralink in there?
I don't know about Neuralink. I haven't gotten into all of them. There were so many acquired, and that's why they're one of the reasons why they probably have $6 billion in debt.
Yeah.
But Twitter, I don't know how they'll survive financially.
Well, I think they're going to fire all the content moderators.
They probably
and Twitter
will.
Safety.
All 6 of them?
All 6 of them.
Can't. But they can't. They have to deal with Europe. They have to deal with other entities. They have to deal with. They can't just like get rid of them. So I'm at a point where I'm still like putting all the numbers together. I looked at their financials today and I'm still going, what in the heck? I mean, we would have spent months trying to convince somebody to do this if it was any other company.
So do you think the board is going to go for it because of that? You think it's just everyone's going to capitulate to this guy because he's so obnoxious and he presses his personality on you and his money so forcefully that everyone just sort of goes, okay, let the obnoxious guy.
No, I think they're making a lot of money.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's all about money at this point. I mean, if you're going to make a 38% return on some shares of stock and you own 1 million of them, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Okay.
So right now, that's how it looks like. There's all kinds of people telling you all kinds of things, but I don't know about Donald Trump. I hope he doesn't do that, but it would be stupid for him to. And the only other way would be to increase a subscription fee. Make everybody pay.
I don't know if it affects them if people leave, if they can just count bot networks.
Well, that's one of the other things that they do. You can literally buy followers on Twitter. You can get ad revenue by outside advertisers. You have to pay Twitter to do almost everything. And that's how they earn their revenue. So I don't know how they could do it. I don't know what he's thinking, but he's kind of
he has a plan
to me.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he has a plan.
Or he
I
doesn't.
think he works it out. I think he works it out.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't have a plan. Maybe the plan is that he has no plan.
The plan is no plan. It's just a troll.
And if you have that much money that you can just plonk down $44 billion, right. And if you lose half your fortune, you still have
who cares?
What, 20 billion?
What's $1 billion termination fee to a guy with 300 million with at least 12 or 8 million or billion available to him in cash?
Nothing.
No.
Okay, Dana.
See ya.
Alarm rang. We love you.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone go follow at Says Dana. Says as in
Dana.
Talking Dana.
Okay. Yeah.
And follow Says Dana. This is the kind of analysis you will get on a regular basis.
I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this thing, if it's going to fall through or what. I mean, I said it on my podcast this morning. It takes 3 weeks to buy a house to do a cash sale because they got to do the title search and all that stuff. And everyone's acting like this is they're just going to hand them the keys immediately. And it's I think it's going to take a little while to figure it out.
It's going to take a bit, but
it's going to take at least another day and a half, right?
He's just one of those kinds of personalities that he will just keep pressing on people until they relent. And, he's the large adult son of our alien overlords. And we'll leave it at that.
He's got a nice fascist haircut, though. So there is that. Okay, now is the time to, what we have to do now? We have to take a little break.
Let's take a break to our advertisers.
Yeah, we're going to be right back with our guest, who I'm very excited about. Okay,
I'm excited, too.
It can happen to anyone. We read something on Facebook, maybe see a random tweet, and it confirms something we want to be true, like Hillary Clinton has some incurable blood disorder, or there's a biolab in Ukraine where Dr. Fauci does medical experiments, or Anthony Weiner's laptop contains anything but dick pics. I know it can happen because it happened to me. Hi, I'm Greg Abbott. Back in 2015, I sent the Texas National Guard to check out a military training exercise called Jade Helm because I thought President Obama was going to declare martial law and turn Walmart parking lots into FEMA concentration camps. Turns out that was Russian propaganda, and I fell for it. I knew I had a problem, so I went to a meeting of UIA, Useful Idiots Anonymous, and it changed my life. How can you tell if you're a useful idiot? Well, maybe you're taking Putin's side on the invasion. Maybe you're riding a truck around the Beltway. Maybe you think the brilliant woman who appeared on your vlog for the last 18 months is an Israeli spy on a secret mission to silence you because an anti-Semitic right-wing troll said so. Maybe your name is Rafael Cruz. If you think you might be a useful idiot, call 1-800-GRUFOOL or check out our page on the Truth Social. Useful Idiots Anonymous. The first step in solving a problem is admitting you have one. I'm Greg Abbott, and I'm a useful idiot. And now, back to the show.
That's a very helpful program. Thank you for promoting it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here comes our guest.
Okay. I'm excited about our guest because he's really cool. And now what he and I have in common is that we've both been on France 24 on the TV.
Oh.
I don't know if you knew that about me. It's the only time I've ever been on real TV. I was on TV in France, but he's also been on like 1,000 other channels. So yeah, like, CNN. And what's cool about him is he goes into the belly of the beast too. He's been on Fox. He's been on the Fox News. He takes on the he's like in The Exorcist. He goes down there with the cross right into the room without fear. Right. He's also he's the greatest entertainment attorney there is, I think.
I think so too.
He's the most entertaining one.
He's the most entertaining
definitely the most
attorney.
Entertaining one. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So
and he looks great in a suit.
He does. Ethan Bearman, hello. How are you?
Ethan Bearman.
Oh my God. Greg and LB. It is. See, what you guys have wrong in that introduction is I am the one who is excited to be here with you because I'm a huge fan of both of yours. And Greg can even, fess up at some point of my secret messages to him in the past going, I actually forwarded your stuff to family members. I mean, when does that happen?
You did, but you took it to Chaffetz, so I did not. And
that's true.
You blocked me because of it.
Good. That's a badge of honor. I collect these things. They're like badges of honor.
Yeah,
so it's good. So okay. What were we going to talk about?
Well, here's why I asked Ethan to come on, but also because we had just been chatting about it. I feel like, Ethan, that we're going to enter a new phase with social media, with the Musk. Everyone's like the Musk takeover and I'm freaking out. But it's also like, okay, let's deal with speech and really kind of assess it. And you had done a Canadian broadcast thing, and I saw you reply to my friend of like, oh my God, I was just talking about this defamation stuff. So that's when I was like, okay, oh, come on. Because if really anybody is just going to be able to be on these platforms spewing lies, spewing hate, harassing people, this idea that that's all under free speech because the government can't intercede. But free speech doesn't mean speech free from consequences. And so I wanted to just kind of maybe talk about those silos a little bit and what can we do? What is available to us? Greg and I both, me especially, been targets of like real defamation. So it's, I know what I can do there. People may know what they can do. It takes tremendous resources, and I did this whole great podcast recently on Elizabeth Taylor that's coming out soon, and got to know her attorneys and how they fought the National Enquirer. So here's this public figure, and there's an argument to be made that just because people have now, done a podcast, or maybe they're known influencers on Twitter, that there's somehow public figures that can then just be lied about, like unabashedly lied about. So what's available to us? Are these platforms going to be held accountable? What can we do, and how are the laws evolving? And I'm really particularly interested also in the harassment side of things, because I know California has some new laws when it comes to harassment. So I'm just hoping you could give us an overview on all of that. I'm going to set the timer, and sorry to put you on the clock.
No pressure.
We'll if it's going really good, we'll let it keep going. I know it's Friday night, so
it's also this is a very large topic because it goes back to our First Amendment, right? And we have the freedom of speech, and the government to interfere with people's rights to speech is a very high standard. And so we only have limited laws that allow the government to go after people. So we have to separate. The First Amendment has to deal with government action, but the government creating laws that would limit speech are very, we're hesitant to go there. So defamation, which it covers libel and slander, written word versus spoken word, generally speaking. And by the way, keep in mind, anything I'm talking about with the law, I'm speaking in generalities.
Right.
I have to give a tiny bit of a disclaimer, which
That's
is
right.
if anybody has specific questions or issues related to their own case, you've got to talk to a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction where you
That's
live, your state. So don't take this. This is a very broad conversation that we're having. But here's what it is. Just very directly, people can say what they want in the United States. And we have created certain rules that limit that. So, for example, you cannot incite violence that has an immediate effect on somebody to commit a violent act. So that's why when we're talking about like January 6th and Rafael Cruz or Josh Hawley or any of those types of people, you're going to have a hard time proving that they incited violence because did somebody act immediately? No, they didn't. And that's what the standard is. So defamation is slander and libel. And that's me saying something that is untrue, objectively untrue about somebody else. And so that would be as if I said, let's just use an example. I lied in a way about you that harmed you, and I knew what I was saying was wrong, or what the standard is for public figures is it's called actual malice, and that goes back to a 1964 court case called New York Times v. Sullivan, when the Supreme Court said, hey, this general negligence standard doesn't work because what had happened is a group of Martin Luther King Jr. supporters took out a full-page ad against Sullivan. He was the sheriff in the county in, I believe it was Alabama, if I'm getting all my Southern
Montgomery,
state.
maybe, yeah.
Montgomery, yeah, thank you. And they took out an ad and it had some facts incorrect. And so he sued, and in Alabama, they won, and it went up for $500,000 in damages against these civil rights activists. And it went up to the Alabama Supreme Court, and they said, absolutely $500,000. And the United States Supreme Court, Justice Brennan said, no. You have to do something where you know it's false, or you have to suspect and you have real reservations. So it's called reckless disregard for the truth when dealing with a public figure, such as yourselves, right? And myself, people say garbage about me too, right? But the key then becomes, and you hit on a really interesting point. So social media, sorry to get a little bit of a history lesson here, but this is important. You have heard recently people talk about Section 230. You've heard that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have it written down in my notes.
Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of, I believe it was 1996, was created for a good reason. It had to do with things like pornography or child pornography. So if I was a platform, let's say I was Alta Vista back in 1996. If anybody remembers that.
Oh, you're really dating yourself.
Yeah. Yep. And
that's the GeoCities neighborhood. Yeah.
GeoCities.
And yeah, right. Exactly. GeoCities, AOL with the CD, all that.
Yeah.
I'm actually old enough that I remember BBSs. But if somebody else, let's say, I don't know, Matt Gaetz put a piece of just this, this is just an example, hypothetical. He put something that was objectionable and illegal up on my GeoCities page. And I'm GeoCities. The way the law was before Section 230, I could sue GeoCities in addition to Matt Gaetz, even though GeoCities had nothing to do with that material that was put up there. So you were holding the content provider liable for everything that was posted on the internet. The internet would not have developed the way that it had at all. I mean, it wouldn't have happened. There would be no anonymous posting. Everybody would have to be validated for who they are, and everywhere they went on the internet, that would have to be tracked. I mean, you'd have Big Brother keeping track. Section 230 served a real purpose.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be modified a little bit, and it could be modified a little bit, but that is a critical piece in all of this. So now we fast forward to social media. They're protected by Section 230. So I can't sue Twitter. I can't sue Facebook when somebody else publishes a defamatory statement. LB is a child molester and has been convicted of it. So that would be slander per se, because accusing somebody of a crime and saying they've been convicted of it when they never have been is a per se violation of the slander. So I don't even have to prove that in court. There's so many pieces of this. So apologies. Guide me where
That's okay. That's okay. No. You're doing great.
But it's really hard. So defamation is hard to prove. And the burden is on the plaintiff, because there's this idea of intent that comes along with it. And you have to have suffered a damage professionally, monetarily, that is measurable for you to win. I mean, so it's all of these different pieces. There's something called nominal damages too, but you have to show that they knew they were saying something that was false. And that is usually the biggest hurdle, is that it's objectively false.
Yeah.
And so that's the big picture of the problems of defamation. Now let's get to the last part. Attorney's fees are not recoverable, and no attorney does it on contingency. So when you want to take a defamation case against somebody who has accused you of something that is wrong and it has harmed you because of it, you're going to have to pay attorneys out of your own pocket to do this. Now, there's a key to this. It doesn't have to be your own pocket. And we know this from the Gawker case.
That's right.
Of Hulk Hogan, and Peter Thiel. That's right. Funded the case for Hulk Hogan, and it put Gawker out of business. Now, did Gawker deserve to go out of business? Did they publish something defamatory? Did Peter Thiel have a grudge against them because they outed him? I mean, that's a really dirty, ugly case, but it's the example of a third-party payer is there, and the American Bar Association and courts continue to uphold this idea of a third-party payer for justice. Because if I'm a person of low economic means, for me to achieve justice, I might need somebody else to pay for
Or
it.
if you suffered from the defamation in such a way that you can't earn what you need. Oh, that's our timer.
There it was.
That's our timer. So that circles it. I just want to, before you go though, because I do make all the rules. I do want to get into like thinking about though, what if they're warned? What if they know? So this is the thing about Twitter, is that they do have this Twitter safety, and there are people who have said this person's harassing me, and they take these accounts down because they harass or they stalk or they defame or they incite violence, or they're just, it's beyond disinformation. Everyone gets globbed into that word, but it's beyond, where it's actually all there to cause harm on an individual or a group of individuals, or political violence, right? So is there anything where we can look at maybe regulation and pushing our lawmakers to regulate to where, like, well, you need to have content moderators, and if you knew that this person was causing such harm and you took them off, and then you're going to let them back on again, and they start causing that harm again, and you're going to say, oh, free speech. I feel like that might be something that maybe we need some legislation around, and an easy one for people to get, no matter what their political affiliation is, certain
So
people,
that would be
people shouldn't have this toy.
I think
they're
that's
dangerous with the toy.
Harassment, California has passed some new legislation. It doesn't cover quite yet what you're talking about, but California really does lead the way on a lot of these types of issues. And I would suggest that it is not going to happen at the federal level, obviously, but it would happen in places like states like California, who has a very generous long arm statute, is what that's called in the law, where if somebody does something, you and I are in California, and if somebody does something against us, no matter where they are in the world, California basically says you can go after them. That's right. As long as they targeted it to California in some legitimate way, and there's laws around that. But I think you would be able to go to Sacramento. We could get a group of people together. We would figure out how to draft the language and put pressure on some politicians in Sacramento to get something like that passed. I think that
so
is
too.
possible.
I do too. And
Yeah.
I think, look, the Supreme Court has decided it's all about states' rights anyway when it comes to women's bodies. So,
Oh,
maybe it's all
please.
states'
That
Good
rights
for the
anyway.
gander is good for the goose. Yeah.
What's
I mean,
good for the
I love
gander
that
is
Governor
good for the
Newsom, though, said that we're going to have a private right of action against people who violate gun laws now. I
right.
mean, to Greg's point.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, we got to kick you off now
I know.
because it's Friday night and you've been so generous, and also the alarm went and we kept going.
Right.
But we would love for you to come back on
Yes, please
and
do.
talk us through a lot of these things, because just like what Dana just did, it's all being conglomerate, these very complex issues that also we do have actionable means and things that we can push for, and there's progress to be made on legislation front on a state level or the federal level, that people don't even know that they can sort through those ideas because everything just gets this label like free speech, and it's silly, but that's also what it's designed to do, is to like defeat the will of the people to come and actually keep progressing and advancing things forward. So,
one more quick
Ethan.
thing. One sentence is that most or much disinformation begins with slander. And I think that's one of the reasons, why we wanted to talk about this. Yeah, I know. You said it today. We were talking it last time. But I think that's an important distinction. If you think about it, it's true. And therefore, going after slanderers is a way of stopping disinformation.
That's right.
Not before it starts, as Winston Churchill says. The lie gets halfway around the world before the truth does its pants on.
That's right.
So,
but just like with the COVID, the mask helps pull the lit match out of the line of lit matches. We all saw that GIF.
Yeah.
This is one thing. Like if we can tighten up our slander laws and our defamation laws, then maybe the disinformation won't be as damaging as it is.
Yeah. Well, and one last quick note there, and that's why there are thoughts about some tweaks to Section 230, because if you do it there, then it really is Twitter has to be doing more content moderating and protecting people. So that would be the other approach as well.
Yeah.
Love it.
Speaking of Twitter, your Twitter handle is it's your name, right? At Ethan Bearman. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Because people are asking. So it's ETHAN Bear, BEARMAN. Go follow Ethan if you don't do it.
You gotta follow Ethan.
Yeah. Please come back. You have to promise.
Thank you guys so much. I loved it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank
Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
All right. That was fun.
He's amazing.
He's great.
Yeah. Love that.
I'm glad.
Okay.
Good. Okay. It's time for the next section, right?
It's time for the next section. Are we going to do announcements? No, we do that after the last
after
one.
the next section.
All right. What's the next section here? Oh, the Hurley Burley. We're back to the Hurley Burley, everybody. We got some Hurley Burley to discuss.
Okay. Just in case there's any confusion about what we mean by Hurley Burley.
Hurley Burley.
Baby, what a bad boy you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are making promos. Just in case you couldn't tell, that one I made Greg do. So I love it. Hurley Burley. So the Hurley Burley is this, it started way back in our first episode, even though we've only done 5, of this idea that there's all this weirdness going on in the discourse where we have to like envision what privately is going on with people, and how that has become this weaponized thing. It was a phrase that E. Jean Carroll used for thinking about Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas in the bedroom. Is like, who can imagine that Hurley Burley? And so we took it from E. Jean. Thank you, E. Jean. And but it's a global sort of thought here of like, holy cow, what's going on? And so we wanted to get into this Madison Cawthorn thing a little bit and what that might mean, that the GOP is just, the Republican Party on the Hill is just saying, oh yeah, we're eating our young now. Why are they eating their young, Greg Olear? You start this. What
don't know.
is going
First of all,
on?
since I already ruined the joke, I mean, first of all, there's nothing wrong with him. He was just in a production of Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was a really good Frankenfurter.
It's
You know,
so
Devin
good.
Nunes and Elise Stefanik were great as Brad and Janet. I hope everyone was
Oh.
able to see it. The singing was a little but you know, I think he looked pretty good in you know, in the thing. It was really good. I think, you know, first of all, when we talk about Hurley Burley, let's make one thing clear, and I think we're gonna have to keep saying this. We're not about kink shaming. I don't care
No.
what he does. If he wants to
No.
dress up in lingerie and
Oh
fine,
my
great,
God.
more
I
power
wish
to
he
you.
would just do
As
it.
long as
Like
consenting adults and nobody's harmed,
yes.
please fly the freak flag, have fun.
Fly
We're
it.
cool with it. We're not the party that isn't cool with it.
That's right.
Okay?
We're into it. Like it not be for ourselves necessarily, but for you to have the liberty to go and do and be who you are, Madison Cawthorn.
It's First Amendment, man. He can
It's
do what he
First
wants. You know.
Amendment.
Yeah, he's not hurting anybody by doing all this stuff. But
Yeah.
there does seem to be a target on his back, and I don't think that it's the Democrats that are hitting him. So
I don't either.
it seems to be, the rumor is that it's Stefanik's people are doing, or is that the McCarthy thing? I don't even know anymore who's
I
trying to
don't
get rid of this
know.
guy. But I think, okay, I don't have the clip, but if you watched the podcast that he was on, where he was talking about the cocaine orgies, okay?
Yes.
Now, I should have clipped it, but I'm not good with the video yet, okay? So that, if you go back and look at it, you sort of have this idea, because we watch, you know, videos of him, like he's beating up a tree and he's shooting guns at stuff, and he just looks
or
ridiculous.
pictures of him from Eagle's Nest at Hitler's compound.
It's all
the
very
Nazi
weird.
stuff.
But
Yeah.
in that particular podcast, he's very at ease. He looks like a normal human. He doesn't look strange. He's wearing comfortable clothes, and he just looks normal, hanging out with somebody who could be his friend.
Yeah.
And he basically is telling the story like, and the gist of it is, I went to Washington hoping to do this stuff, and you know, I have these guys in high regard, and I consider them the moral arbiters of the party. And as soon as I get there, they're inviting me to these orgies at their houses, and then also separately, somebody's doing a bump of cocaine in the bathroom, and it's like, really, you?
Yeah.
And if you watch him say that, it is easily the most cogent, normal, rational thing he has said in any of the videos you've seen.
It's
So
not good.
you know, I don't think he was lying. I mean, there's nothing about that video to me suggest, because I watched it. The reason I watched it is because I wanted to make fun of it, right? Because I was like, this will be fun to make fun of. And I watched it and I'm like, there isn't really anything to make fun of. Actually, I kind of like that he said that. You know, he's
It
telling
felt
the truth.
honest. It felt genuine. It was a genuine
it's an
moment.
actual genuine moment.
Yeah. Oh my God. Someone we do have a green room, everybody. And someone in our green room just said, now I'm scared to go to cocaine orgies. Yeah, look, it does. Here's the problem with public officials is it becomes blackmail. So we have a great friend, I think is coming on the show soon, John from Cake, who has been tweeting and tweeting. We need an off-ramp for the sexual blackmail and for people who are politicians that are just owned. Who knows who owns them? But clearly, I think it's not this out there crazy idea for people to understand now that politicians can be compromised and therefore owned, whether it's through finances, whether it's through drugs, whether it's through maybe the sex stuff. We're getting much more. I don't know. The Republican Party's regressing us. They should just keep going forward because they're the only ones that are going to be in trouble with this. But with the kink shaming, but the underage stuff is obviously that's a crime. Yeah. So, it's like if we can just give folks an off ramp, maybe, and let them get out of it. That doesn't mean let people get away with criminality. It means maybe get out of politics, right? Because this tactic of owning people through blackmail it needs to stop. It just is like it's really compromising our democracy. I truly believe that. I don't think it's on this huge scale that some people do, but that's one thing. So if that's what's going on with Madison Cawthorn, horrible, right? I think there's plenty other blackmail on this guy with the Nazi stuff and the Russian stuff and the Russian honey trap others
and the inside trading thing.
And that's what I was getting to. Yeah. So, But why would the Republicans throw him under the bus for just Caligula? They are full Caligula. They pushed that monstrosity on us as president, who was a rapist and a credibly accused rapist and a credibly accused sexual assaulter, and it's just says the worst things and does the worst things, and was in there in the own beauty pageants, and was in there with the underage girls, inspecting their teeth and looking at them in their underwear. So I don't think they have any problem with the kink. I really don't. So why are they doing this to this kid? Like, and he's also the next generation that they love. MAGA loves him. The more Nazi-esque he is, the more white supremacist he is, the more sort of, and he looks like he's a veteran, even though he's not, because he's in the wheelchair. He sort of checks all these boxes, and he loves Donald Trump, and Donald Trump loves him. So why are they focusing on him? I can't get past that question. It doesn't make sense. He knows something. He's got something on them, or something's coming out on this kid that is beyond what they believe they can survive, even with their MAGA crew that doesn't pay attention to facts and truth anyway. So it's criminality maybe that the Justice Department would actually do something about. So there's some kind of distancing that they feel like they need to do with Madison Cawthorn, and by the they, I mean either the Kevin McCarthy or the Elise Stefanik, who looks like she's got knives out for him. But I can't believe it's the sex or the cocaine, or Matt Gaetz would be gone. He'd be gone. He's not. Something else is got Madison Cawthorn involved in it that puts the fear of God in Kevin McCarthy. And I don't think it's the numbers, unless there's polling that this sort of generation of Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Lauren Boeberts and Madison Cawthorns, as much as they look like to us that they are driving the party towards whatever the party's future is, if there's polling that came back that said, yeah, people really don't like this, and you need to distance yourself from that, then maybe that. It's certainly not reflected in the polls that we all see. It's certainly not reflected in the media reporting on all of this. As far as we're told, and as far as the discourse is concerned, this guy is beloved. So something else is underneath all of this.
Assuming it's not just they're throwing it out there to distract us from something else, which it could be also. But
someone in the green room said, "We'll find out in 2 years in a New York Times bestseller." There'll be a book deal.
Yeah, there'll be a book deal. Assuming it's not that, I don't know.
I don't know either.
It might just be that. Remember, there was the thing, what stays in the family. There's the omerta that was demanded by Paul Ryan and Kevin McCarthy, and maybe the cocaine orgies thing was a demonstration that isn't the case.
Maybe not. Okay, so
thanks, Chopin's heart. Okay,
here it goes.
Thanks, Jack.
Because I forgot to hit it, but I was paying attention to the clock on my computer. I forgot.
This is a high-tech show, people. This is a high-tech show.
Oh, my God. I forgot to hit it. Okay.
People are we can take a couple of questions now. Where's the green room? The green room. Okay, so we know, because we've mentioned the green room.
Okay. I'm not paying attention to the public questions. Sorry,
it's
guys.
Not really a green room. It's really, we do this on a program called StreamYard, which I thought was called SteamYard, like steampunk, but it's not. It's StreamYard.
It's Stream.
And so I can see people in you watching the show cannot, but we can see people, and it's sort of half faded out and sort of opaque, and I can add them to the screen, right? So, which is what I did with Dana and Ethan, and now we have people that are in the green room that I can see, and they can watch the show. But we can't. They can't come on until we can see them, and there's a little private chat going on, and I don't know. We're trying to do this this salon kind of thing, and I finally figured out how to get to the second row. And there's a second row. This is, it's all about trying to figure this out. So that's one of the
That's what's going on, and it just the smart people to help us keep the energy going. And just our friends who were like, "Can we go backstage?" And then there's people here wandering around, coffee.
I have somebody here this time. I have
And you have teenagers.
no, I have John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive, and
Oh my
he's
God.
going to walk through the. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't want to get the MAGA watching tonight all worked up.
Don't get them.
We don't
They'll
want to get
come.
them.
You're,
We don't want to
you're,
get them too
you are a
excited
prime
because,
target for that. Okay. Last topic, unless somebody wanted to come on, I
announcements.
asked somebody.
You wanted to announce your thing.
Oh, I just want to let everybody know that the second season of The World Beneath is coming. I hadn't told you guys what the theme was. Just so you know, 2 years ago when I set this whole thing up, and I crafted it 4 years ago plus, every season has a theme, and the theme of the second season is fame. So we're going to go back with our original gangsters, and we're going to go back in a really big conspiracy, and a couple of dead bodies that you don't expect that were part of that conspiracy, because you've not really heard of that so much, and unpack who built Hollywood, who built Las Vegas, which basically we're going into the Jewish mafia.
Yes.
So yeah, it's going to be a great season. I'm excited. I'm really deep into it now. So it is coming. I'm excited about it. And, just keep your ears peeled and keep your eyes peeled on Twitter. I might start leaking a little bit of it in terms of what we're going into. But we're going to understand. And then it's building towards, everything's building. These are all bricks I'm trying to lay down, because I realize that Twitter is the wrong place to try to tell a complex contextual historic history to how we got to where we are. It works to kind of get people's attention, but then everyone ends up taking your content and saying it's their own, or messing it up, or they don't quite understand what you're doing. And so I moved everything into a different medium so that I could really do proper storytelling. And that's what The World Beneath is. And I'm excited for the second season. And it's setting up where everything is going so that we can understand basically everything we've been talking about on the show tonight, of what we're dealing with and what we're up against.
I just hope there's a lot of Lucky Luciano in this episode. I hope, or in this season. I suspect no, but I hope so.
Oh, I don't know what happened to me. There's some Lucky,
okay.
and we will be calling on the great vocal stylings of Mr. Greg Oliar for Lucky Luciano.
That's me. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so that's coming out at some indeterminate date. My announcement is, I don't really have an announcement, but Friday is the day that my podcast drops. Today's podcast, probably literally everyone watching this already knows this, but the podcast today was pretty interesting. Brandon Gaucher, who wrote the book Before Evil, really, I thought a pretty good conversation, thought-provoking and interesting about these dictators and what they were like as kids, and which could be done really badly, I should say. Like in the wrong hands, that could be a really not good thing, but he did a great job with it, and I thought it was pretty fascinating. So if you haven't checked that out, download it and check it out. It's free, no cost.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What I loved is the thought that they came from privilege. It made me think of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm. I had a little shade in there about Elon, the Emerald Mine in my piece. Okay, so
we're running over, so I already started the clock for our
fine.
last topic.
Somebody, I can't remember who suggested that we talk about this, but somebody did, I think week 1 or 2, suggested that we talk about all the very old senators that would not retire. So we're going to talk about, because we're giving the people what they want here. That's it.
I think we are. Yeah. Oh, guys, I tore my meniscus, so hang on. I gotta put my knee up. It's a little weird. Okay, sorry for that. So, okay, I have a bone to pick with Dianne Feinstein. I do. I'm sorry. I think there's enough reporting now that's come out. I love Dianne Feinstein. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my friend brought me a thing for my leg. But there's a couple of issues. One, that there's plenty of reporting from, it looks like, coming out from her own colleagues on her own side of the aisle, that she needs to retire. And because we do need an effective, powerful senator from California, and she's not it right now. She's not it anymore. And it's sad to say, but I actually am in that camp. I'm not seeing any evidence to the contrary. Yes, it could be some horrible, terrible, disparaging thing against her. I don't think it is. That's number one. Number two about Diane is she's coming out of the Northern California. And right now, more than ever, we need a senator who grasps all of the intricacies and all of the threats of these massive media companies that are social media companies that are coming from the tech valley, and what we've got to do about it to regulate them. It's enough. I mean, she's kind of hinted a little bit of like, oh, this was our great banner that we waved from California, that we had these great tech companies, and this was our entrepreneurship, and this is what we were selling out to the rest of the world, and we were exporting all this great tech, and we were all this sort of innovation coming out of Silicon Valley. So she will tip her hat to that. She thought that that was going to be all great, and now it's maybe there's some danger in there, real danger in there, but I don't think she has the wherewithal to grasp it on a level which she can separate it. And of all the states where we need an informed senator in there on these committees, looking at regulation, looking at everything we just talked about with Ethan, understanding the threats of these billionaires, right? There's all this concentration of wealth into this very tiny little part of our country in Silicon Valley. And these companies that have tremendous power over democracies, over global democracies. We need someone who can get in there and understand things and not just listen to jargony gobbledygook anytime Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg shows up to testify for some horror that their platform has been participating in anywhere around the world. We've got a data privacy issue. We've got data ownership issue. We're facing real threats when it comes to our own personal data and what happens with us and how we participate in a global society from these tech titans and their platforms. And we need somebody in there who is young and smart. And we need a Sheldon Whitehouse of Silicon Valley. If we had a Sheldon Whitehouse of Silicon Valley, we'd be in a much better position than we are today. She was supposed to be that. She's not that. She can't do it. She can't do it. And so this is the threat of having these senators that just go on and on and on and on because into their old age, because they have brand recognition. Some people have minds, they can do it. Some people, they can't. The brain is a very delicate thing. And it's very specific to the individual, and it's very specific to our genetics, and it's very specific to how we treat it. And, I feel like that's too much power in such an important area that is handed over to somebody who doesn't have the faculties anymore. God bless her. And we got to figure this out. So that's one example. People say I don't hit out at Democrats. I do all the time. I think we have a real vulnerability there, and I would like to see that. I don't know how. I don't even know what can happen there, and I don't even know who would stand in her stead. We lost Kamala to the vice presidency, which was amazing, but and I don't mind the guy that's in there for her, but we need a tech savvy person out of California to be our senator to really wrangle that industry and not just take money from them. It's a problem.
What about Elon Musk?
We have the other old farts, right? That it's Grassley's a problem. Grassley's a real problem.
Well, Grassley's more of a problem because he's a traitor. Honestly, I don't care how old
there's
Grassley
that,
is.
but I don't know that he knows that he is.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
Okay.
I think he knows. I think it. I don't like. I know people. This isn't exactly the topic, but I don't think term limits are actually great for a lot of reasons. I mean, I understand the thinking behind them, but you have people that are really, really effective and efficient at doing the job. You want them doing the job, and to not have somebody who's really good that everybody can get behind just because of a term limit seems silly to me. It'd be like, hey, we're all on the airplane. Somebody has to fly the plane so we don't die. Well, I'd fly, but I can't because term limits, no, put the person in charge, we're at that point now in our democracy where we need people on deck who know what they're doing.
Who
I
know
don't know.
what they're doing.
It's a tricky issue. It really is. But I think
Yeah.
also if you're getting up, up there and you feel yourself that your health is waning and you're kind of like on the decline, it's incumbent on you to bow out. I mean, why it's egotistical and selfish to remain in some of these positions, but they're politicians, man. That's like the prime. Most politicians are egotistical and selfish. I mean,
or they wouldn't want to do it. I
Yeah,
think
it's-
we always end up with that.
Yeah.
I do think we're kind of getting into another era where I do believe that we're getting a generation of politicians. I want to be positive about some things. I'm always the doom and gloom. So here I'm going positive. Where we are getting into an era, we do have some young politicians, people who are like, you know what? I just got to get in the game and I got to get in there. And like that wonderful Mallory senator who gave that incredible speech against hate. So on the state levels, we need them. And in on Capitol Hill, we need them. And so I'm hopeful about new generations coming in, but it also means that the folks that are up there in age recognize that and maybe help usher in somebody and mentor rather than hanging on where it's detrimental for everyone, including yourselves. I mean, it's okay to retire. It's okay.
Yeah. I think let's let Gen X take over, please.
For someone from the green room, just before the buzzer goes off, it takes incredible ego and/or incredible corruption for someone to think they must be in government, basically, until rigor mortis sets in.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, it's true. My God, is that the whole show? This went by so fast.
We went over only 9 minutes. We did good.
That's fine. We're allowed to go over a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I got to go back to this screen now and do this thing. So, okay. So we want to thank our guests. Says Dana, thanks for coming on.
That's
Ethan
right.
Bearman, thanks for coming on. If you guys don't follow them on Twitter, please go do so. There's a lot of really great comments, especially on this episode. I'm trying to watch the YouTube comments to the right of me, and then I have the Twitter comments on my phone, which is right here, and I can see some of the stuff and I miss a lot of things. So if we don't get back to you, I apologize. I'm trying to look at everything all at once.
It's so hard.
It's hard, but we
It's really
appreciate
hard,
the
guys.
comments. It's a great discourse. We have a lot of really smart people watching the show.
Oh yeah, I see. Bonjour, you're all. I see all kinds of folks in there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's good
for
stuff.
watching. Yeah, we love
so
you
we
all.
will be back next week, right? Are we coming back next week?
I think we're coming back next week. Yeah, I think we've got some good guests lined up for May. So I'm excited about May. Then we might take a little break, guys. I don't know.
Me too. So and everyone watching the green room, thank you for the comments and the good chats. And all right, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.